Good evening and welcome to our Committee of the Whole meeting of December 10th, 2007. We are at Franklin High School this evening. We'd like to thank everyone for joining us this evening at Franklin and those of you who are watching from home. First up on the agenda this evening is Audience Communications, and first up for that is Mr. Brad Wolken. Mr. Wolken, if you could sit at the front table up front. Good evening, Mr. Wolken.
Good evening. Recently, the LPS conducted a survey regarding, for middle school students, regarding the Mandarin language possibilities for the school. And one thing I would like to know, also I just handed out another article regarding another district that is expanding more of their Mandarin program. And they're actually doing exchange programs with other students in China, which is an excellent opportunity again for students. What I would like to know is what is the status of the survey that was conducted and when we would get the results of that survey and possibly when we would know when the implementation and what types of plans are planned for any expanded language offerings in the school. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Wolken. Next up this evening is Mrs. Eileen McDonald. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you. Probably about a month or so ago, I requested information based on the Freedom of Information Act in reference to the playground equipment that's at Riley and Rosedale Elementaries. And I would like to know, I did receive a partial information, but I did not receive a complete information that I requested. I asked for copies of all the bids, all the original bids, and all I received were the bid results. And I also asked for the consultant fees that were paid on this project. And thirdly, I don't understand why the district paid for that equipment out of the general fund. It was almost $100,000 that was taken. That, in my opinion, should have been taken out of the sinking fund. And also, my fourth question is, what are we going to do to correct the equipment at Riley, especially, and without having the parents pay for it? Thank you.
Thank you. Next up this evening is Mr. Lloyd Romick. Good evening, Mr. Romick.
Good evening. I'd like to talk about the student loss that we've had over the last couple of years. When we look at what constitutes a student, it's broke out into a couple of different categories. First, the general education, and then special education. But we also have groups that include the non-K-12 and then the county center program. Looking at the trends on those different groups and looking at whether the effect of the legacy initiative versus the economy, the non-K-12, the special ed, and the county center numbers have all gone up. It's the general education population that has gone down, especially in the 5th and 6th grades. Looking at that, I'm hard-pressed to see how you can't come to the conclusion that that is due to the legacy initiative. While at the same time our student population is dropping, that's certainly not the case with the paychecks of our administrators. Dr. Liapa, $147,649. Ms. Ailes, $133,098. Ms. Homitz, $132,772. Ms. DeMann, $108,305. Durand, $121,028. Mr. Hosman, $132,445, and the same for Ms. Levesque. And Ms. Worthen, $122,333. No offense, but this isn't exactly pay for performance. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gromick. Next up is Mr. John Grisback. Good evening.
Well, thank you, and good evening. I want to start this evening by saying it's good that the board is getting back into the buildings. I know you've done that before, and when now conditions are allowing you to do that again. That's what it's all about. I think it's great that we're recognizing good people like we did last week. I think it's also great that we're getting the presentations and we're getting back to listening to that and what is actually going on in those buildings. I think that's important. Last week, I apologize. I came in a little late to the board meeting, and while I was coming up the stairs, I ran into a friend of mine, and we looked at the pictures outside of the hallway of people that served on the board. And I was just thinking, next month is Board Recognition Month, and I just wanted to thank you early for what you do. All 7 of you, regardless of your views. And you put a lot of time, stress, and energy into getting elected, and even more when the real work begins once you're elected. If you're doing your job good, you're sharing your experiences and ideas and bringing them to the table in evaluating your past decisions. I think it's important, I've said this before, when a board member votes no, that they explain that and they come together and bring that view, because sometimes it's a very valid view, and share that and continue to evaluate the will of the board. I also want to end by saying, some people come up to me and ask me all the time, why are you on the board? You folks, so why would I make a commitment to that in the future? Well, I think you certainly don't get paid much, in money, hardly anything. What you do get paid is, only legal, the compensation that you get. What I would like to say, though, is when you read to board, when you read to, kids in school, at the lower L, and and then see them graduate, and that whole process, I think, is what you're doing it for. So I would like to extend a special thank you to all of you folks and all of those staff people that go over and beyond in our district, and all of those parents that do those wonderful things all through the year. Thank you, and have a happy holidays.
Thank you, Mr. Grisback.